You probably know floor 60 of the Shinra Building as the place where you have to sneak past 4 security guards. It's a pretty simple minigame, but it's earned some notoriety for frustrating impatient players. Less talked about are the 2 NPCs toward the bottom of the map, who tell Cloud's crew they shouldn't be there and seemingly exist only to prevent players from bypassing the stealth minigame above. On the PS1, it's hard to make much of them out, what with the low resolution and zoomed out camera. However, on higher resolution modern ports, players might notice they look a little bit strange. Closer examination reveals some severely mashed up models with jutting body parts and hair. With a head-on view, we can see just how mangled they really are. At this point, you're probably wondering what on earth happened here. Well, let us explain. FF7 animates characters by attaching prefabricated motions to their skeletons. These are essentially a series of instructions that manipulate the bones of a given model frame by frame. The motion assigned to the 2 NPCs at the bottom of floor 60's map is called BOCB.Aki. The problem is, it doesn't match the models it's assigned to. Specifically, this motion is designed to work with the default skeleton shared by Cloud and most of the game's NPCs. However, the models in question use a different skeleton, a similar one, in fact, to Aerith's, Hojo's, and Sephiroth's. This skeleton has an extra bone that allows its character's long hair to animate. Let's swap out BOCB.Aki for Aerith's default standing motion. Now we can get an idea of what this model is supposed to look like, but the skeleton is still a little warped. That's because this model has a special cape that no motion in the final game accounts for. So we'll tweak things slightly with a custom motion of our own. Voila! What we're left with is a curiously detailed model on par with those of named characters. Based on the design, it's clear this is a woman NPC, and the file name associated with the model bears this out. Next, if we take a look at the map's data, we can see the groups associated with these 2 NPCs are labeled KBA and KBB. KB is Japanese for security, and often used to refer to security guards. Of course, FF7 has dedicated guard NPCs. You can see them right at the top of this map. And if we apply the BOCB.Aki motion to these guards' models, voila again. We can now see what this motion is supposed to look like. A firm, hard, authoritative pose with arms folded behind back. This leaves us with 2 reasonable explanations for what happened. The first is that Jun Akiyama, the event planner responsible for this map, initially used 2 red guard models, but changed his mind at the last minute. Maybe he figured it would seem strange for the guards on the bottom not to apprehend the party like the ones patrolling above. This theory is corroborated by the 2 NPCs' assertive and masculine speech style, which is evident in the Japanese script. These lines could be left over from before their models were changed. However, it's not impossible this dialogue was intended for the caped women NPCs, who do have a certain martial look to them. And so the other possibility is that Akiyama always planned to use these models, but simply made a mistake when attaching motions to them. It's important to note these caped NPC models can only be found on floor 60 of the Shinra Building, and nowhere else in the game. Therefore, we can at least say with confidence that their inclusion wasn't a complete accident. 28 years down the line, we'll likely never have a precise answer to this mystery. But at least we can sleep easier knowing the NPCs on floor 60 aren't as abominable as they've always appeared.